And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside SC off. Bring in SC off. It's orange! Orange 25!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Décollage.
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If there's methane to be igniting in the flare, correct?
Thanks. Keep that. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. It's time for a farewell tour. Antares out here at Wallops. It's CRS-19, NG-19, whichever way you want to call it. Let me know if you can hear me in chat. I'm John Galloway for NASASpaceflight. Give me some 5x5s because we've got a fantastic view of the rocket out there in Virginia coming up on 30 minutes before launch. Y'all hang with us there? While we were sorting some technical difficulties, looks like everybody's got 5x5s. All right. So let's hop over here and say who else is going to be with me. I'm not going to be doing it myself this evening. Joining me on Studio Comms, we should have Mr. Sawyer Rosenstein. Sawyer, we got you on?
You've got me on, and this is always exciting to see Antares launch. It doesn't happen very often, and this particular booster may be having a sort of swan song, appropriately.
A swan song. Thank you, because it's Cygnus, right?
Yes, Cygnus is a swan, yep.
That doesn't count as a pun because the spacecraft is literally Cygnus. We'll allow that one to go.
Thank you.
Also, out in the field today, I believe right now, we've got Mr. Ian Atkinson on comms. Ian, we got you?
Yes, sir, we do. Excited, nervous, all revved up and ready to go for this last flight of Antares tonight.
Outstanding. Have you seen a rocket launch from Wallops before, Ian?
This will be my third in person, probably about my seventh overall, counting some I saw from home.
All right, good deal. And you're over there near the press site right now. Our camera here is about 2 miles away from the launch pad. Are y'all at the press site?
Yeah, myself, Max, and Pat are here. I'm about 10 feet from the camera. Weather is looking very clean right now, so we got a great shot of it. Hope that it continues to cooperate for us.
All right, we've got 3 folks out there. Ian was first in the list, I believe. I don't know if we have him on comms right now, but we've got Pat O'Loughlin as well. He's actually operating the camera for us this evening. Let's see if the mic unmutes or not. Either way, we appreciate Pat for there it went.
I am here, guys, and I'm super excited for this launch. Man, it's been a great run that Antares has had, and I've seen a lot of them, and I'm definitely feeling it right now. So happy to see this launch tonight. It's gorgeous out here, so can't wait.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for marshaling the camera gear and getting it all troubleshot here for us so we could get this fantastic view of the rocket. Lastly, out there in the field, I believe we have Mr. Max Evans. Max, do we have Max on comms?
You should. How do you read?
Yeah, we heard you. How's it looking out there, Max?
It's looking gorgeous. A little bit of what seems like a wildfire smoke layer up top, but the view out to the pad right now is crystal clear, and seeing a little bit of box venting from the strongback, but we are all revved up and ready to go.
All right, outstanding. We've got the whole gang together up there. They've descended on Wallops out there with the launch pad for Antares. To see this, I mean, we've said final Antares go. Before we get into that, managing the stream this evening, producing the stream, we've got Mr. Patrick Colquhoun. Patrick is not on comms, but we appreciate him clicking the buttons to make all the lights blink in the proper order. Sawyer, last launch of the Antares. What does that mean? Wait, it's not the last launch of the Antares. It's the last launch of a specific type of Antares, right?
Correct. This particular rocket that you're looking at right now is called the Antares 230 Plus. So basically, this 200 series, the big problem with it is the fact that the main first stage booster that you see was built in Ukraine at a location that has been targeted by the Russians, and the two RD-181 engines at the bottom, those were produced in Russia, of which we're not accepting any imports at this time. So basically, these are the last of their supply pool. So instead, they will be teaming up with Firefly to work on a newer version of Antares that will be the 300 series.
Gotcha. So right now, there's a couple different things here, right? Let's explain this. There is the Antares rocket, which is the first, and I guess also the second stage. That's Antares, right? And then on top of it is the Cygnus spacecraft. The Cygnus spacecraft is the part that takes the supplies out to the International Space Station. The rocket is the part that gets it on its way up into orbit, right? So it's not necessarily the last flight of the Cygnus spacecraft. It's just the last flight of this configuration of the Antares booster rocket and second stage that carry the Cygnus on their way up to the space station. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. You may remember that Cygnus has previously flown on an Atlas V after the Orb 3 mission, and now will be flying aboard Falcon 9 for at least the next 3 missions, with the current next launch of Cygnus after this being from Pad 40 down at the Cape in
Pad
December.
40? Now, wait a
Yes.
second. Pad 40? That's a different company.
Yeah, they may just be changing out the first and second stage there, or at least
Don't
the
tell
first
'em.
stage. And
Chat, viewers, who launches from Pad 40 at the Cape? Let's see who puts it into chat first. Probably just has the lowest latency tonight. If Cygnus is going to launch on a rocket from Slick 40 from the Cape, who is that? It looks like Z got it first. That's a SpaceX pad. So, Sawyer, the Antares rocket is going away, and Cygnus is going to catch a ride to space on a Falcon 9?
That's exactly right. This is part of. There's been 2 commercial resupply services contracts. This one started with NG-12, or I guess it was orbital ATK-12 at the time. So Northrop Grumman is going to keep providing the Cygnus for quite a while, and that's the nice thing about this vehicle is it's very flexible in where it can attach to a rocket. So it will now have flown on 3 different rockets once it goes aboard Falcon 9.
Geez, getting sort of passed around, it seems. But we are now under 30 minutes, folks, coming up on 26 minutes before the launch out here. Again, this is CRS-19 NG-19. It is it's a Wallops rocket. It's an Antares rocket, the last rocket of this series that will fly even from Wallops. So we're going to have some smaller rockets flying from Wallops for a while here. I think real quick, somebody's crashing the party over here. We may have a very special guest on comms who's hanging out over here. They're going to have to unmute if they're talking first. Do we have our special guest who's going to jump in like it's hee-haw and stick their head out of a window real quick?
You do, and it's really funny because I forgot that the normal person wasn't wearing headphones, so I was like waiting for him to unmute me, and then he mouthed that he couldn't hear anything, and I was like, "Oh, you gotta unmute me," and it worked out perfectly. So I'm here.
Anybody recognize that voice? It's the voice of Mr. John Kraus, one of our photographer friends. I don't even know if that's the right way to introduce you anymore, man.
That's fine. I'm your friend, and I take photos, so it seems like a pretty apt description.
It's an accurate description.
Yeah, I should point out he takes amazing photos from the Cape, from Virginia, and from fighter jets as well.
Sticking your head out the tail of that old warplane. I saw those photos of you on Twitter, John, where you're like taking shots out the rear gun position.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild Oshkosh, and this launch will be pretty tame in comparison. Like just standing here at the grass field press site at Wallops, but it was definitely a fun weekend with the Polaris team.
Good deal, y'all. Hey, look, they're
Pretty
in chat.
scary.
One of the mods is putting John's links over there. Make sure you go visit him. That's a Twitter link. You can find him over on Twitter. You got your own website. You sell all your own prints and stuff like that, right, John? Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah. Good to say hi. Keep up the great work with the streams. Cool stuff. You guys
good
have
deal.
a really cool infrastructure.
I'm bummed I'm not out there to run around remote pickup with you.
Oh, I know. As soon as I saw your name here on the back end, I was like, that was a really fun time. Definitely more as this time around. So hopefully we stay bite free. But good chatting with you guys. Enjoy the launch.
All right, good deal, man. Good hunting for rocket shots, and we'll catch you later. We'll be looking on Twitter for some of the shots that John and the other NSF photographers get from the launch. At some point, we're supposed to talk about what's on the launch, aren't we?
Yeah, I think we should probably do that at some point.
Is it like science? Are there mice on this one or what?
Not this particular one, although that has been in the past. So this particular mission, the Cygnus can carry up to 8,200 pounds of supplies to the International Space Station. So it will be carrying, in terms of science investigations, about 2,500 pounds, about 3,500 pounds of crew supplies, about 2,000 of vehicle hardware, and oddly 68 pounds of computer resources. But into those science ones, there's some really cool ones. There is one that is called Neuronics. So basically, it is in orbit, and they are able to create these neurons that can be used in therapies that rely on these neurons back on Earth to treat diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. There's also a multi-needle Langmuir probe that's meant to study the ionosphere. And then one of my personal favorites is the Sapphire experiment, where they literally burn things in space to see how flammable certain materials are at different oxygen levels, how fire detection systems work, and also post-fire cleanup. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention a new way to drink their own urine.
What?
Yes, there is an updated water management system, we'll say. Basically, what it does is it takes recycled water and then turns it into potable drinking water. And yeah, this one is more advanced than the one they already have. It can produce even more bacterial particulate from it.
No kidding. What was the other thing? There was the Sapphire experiment. Chat, do y'all know what Sapphire is? This is like a Cygnus special because they've done a couple of these experiments. But tell me in chat if you've heard of Sapphire before. You need to understand how things burn in space, right? And you can't just go up to the ISS and then like get a book of matches and start lighting things on fire in the International Space Station. They frown on that. I think there's like procedures that prevent them from doing that sort of stuff. So how do you study fire in a microgravity environment, right? Well, what you do is you send up a spacecraft, and when the spacecraft is coming back down, it's going to burn up anyways. This one, Cygnus, is not recovered. It burns up in the atmosphere, which means that the astronauts can use it as sort of a waste disposal unit. They can put things in it that they don't need anymore, but they don't need to return back to the ground, and they can let it burn up in the atmosphere, and there you go, right? But while it's heading towards its fiery demise in the atmosphere, they can also trigger experiments and get data from inside the spacecraft. So with the Sapphire experiments, they'll actually undock it and they'll send it on its way, and they have little remote control things that light pieces of fabric, material, stuff, right, on fire. And they look at it and they have sensors on it and they sort of watch what happens. And that is how you learn about things that burn in space without endangering the International Space Station itself. That's one of the I don't actually know if those have flown on anything other than Cygnus. Have they? Has anybody heard about that?
I don't think so. I mean, it's one of the best vehicles to do it because as of now, the only vehicle that can bring stuff back from the ISS is Dragon, both crew and cargo.
Yep. There you go. So lots of different things going up on CRS-19 here. The Cygnus spacecraft going to be taking the supplies. What was it? Computer resources? Somebody needed a new mouse on the International Space Station.
That is a heavy mouse at 68 pounds then.
Maybe it was a lot of mice.
Also, there are mice on board then, just not the living kind.
Not the living kind of mice. Nice. Anyways, just about to cross T-minus 20 minutes here, folks. Toss some questions in chat for us. We'll get some of your questions. We've got Ian out there in the field who has done a lot of research about the mission, so we'll see if we can't toss some questions to Ian as well. And while those questions come in, I'm going to grab some thanks. We're able to roll out and cover these launches and share these experiences with you because you keep showing up for some reason and supporting us, but we appreciate it. Liz McQuaid did a super chat a little while ago saying, over at Mariner's Point for hopefully your first ever live launch. Liz, good luck with the launch tonight. Hopefully we get this going for you in 19 and a half minutes, and thank you so much for the support. I hope you have a great view of the launch. We've got John who gifted a Red Team membership here. The membership gifting program is a great way to share what we do with other people, the behind the scenes photos and early access videos and stuff like that we do. Methane Man US also gifted 5 Red Team memberships. But if you got one of those gifted memberships, say thanks to whoever gifted it to you. We've got Travis Cecil. I'm trying to speed run here because the launch is coming up. Travis Cecil does a super chat and says, nice. When you're not sure what bird pun to make about swans, just wing it.
I love it.
Sensible chuckle, Travis Cecil. Thank you so much for the support. Charles gifted 5 Red Team memberships. Appreciate you, Charles. Patolmi. Something tells me the P is silent in that name, but we've got a statement here more with some curly L's attached to it. Y'all always argue West Coast is best coast, but clearly Mars is the superior spaceport. Mars, MARS, stands for Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport, what Wallops calls their launch facility out there on the coast of Virginia.
Wallops gang. Get some hashtag Wallops gang in chat, please.
Hashtag Wallops gang. Nice. It's such a beautiful place to watch the launch from. It really is.
It is amazing out here.
Gosh. Running through some more of these, JD Brown has a question for us. Why is naming Cygnus spacecraft after a famous NASA astronaut a tradition of the Antares Cygnus missions? Who's got that one? Sawyer or Ian? One of y'all want to speak to the naming of the capsules?
I could grab it.
All right, go ahead.
So, yeah, it's been a tradition since the first operational flight of Cygnus to name the capsule after a either famous astronaut or not necessarily a famous astronaut, usually a deceased astronaut, recently deceased, very honorable astronauts, as well as I believe they had a few Northrop Grumman employees who Cygnus was named after, but don't quote me on that one. So it's just been a tradition to kind of name the ships after people. It's a common tradition, in the Navy, of course, to name your ships after people. So, yeah, Northrop Grumman decided to take up that tradition, make their own tradition, and go ahead with Cygnus.
All right. Who's this one named after this evening? You normally see the name of the person on the side of the spacecraft as it does its mission here, carrying supplies up to the ISS. Who's this one named after?
I'm going to pass that one off to Sawyer because I believe he can explain that one, the history and the significance of that name better.
Good deal. Sawyer?
Yes, this particular mission is the SS Laurel Clark, named after one of the astronauts aboard STS-107, which was the final flight of Columbia that disintegrated, unfortunately, over Texas back in February of 2003. I should properly call her Dr. Laurel Clark. That was her first and only spaceflight, unfortunately, but now her name aboard this vehicle will get to go to space.
Gotcha. Thank you, Sawyer. It is a really cool tradition to see the remembrance, I guess, that we use whenever we remember. What a way to put it. When we send these spacecraft on their way to space, doing the mission, a critical mission, resupplying the International Space Station here. Let me get just a couple more. Jody Henson said Spacey Y. Appreciate you. Jody gifted a Red Team membership as well. Thank you for that. We've got Ethan McCoy, who's a flight engineer with the membership program. Please appreciate you, Ethan. Jim Cavett gifted a Red Team membership. TISCH. Not sure if I should pronounce that, but gifted 5 Red Team memberships. We appreciate the support there. Ethan McCoy also says, watching from the hurricane here in Okinawa, Japan. No power, but can't miss the launch. Stay safe out there, Ethan. Thank you so much for tuning in and hope that y'all weather the storm out there in Japan. We've got Axie, who did a $10 super chat. Lots of love for NSF from NG Chandler. Go Cygnus, go Antares. Axie, thank you so much for the support there. We've got Shadow Gunner 66 says, thanks for all the great coverage you guys do. And a pun to nope, not reading that point. Just going to move on to the next one.
Come on. Thank you, Shadow Gunner. I appreciate it.
I think whether or not I acknowledge the pun token for Sawyer, it still goes into the bank. So Sawyer, consider yourself banking 1 pun token there.
Thank you. I may have to steal one from Sean O'Brien in chat, who said, how has Sawyer not said, get down with the Cygnus?
Oh my gosh. Yes,
Wow.
Take that pun token right back away, and now you have to be quiet for 5 minutes.
Okay.
I think we need a continuous counter in the corner of the screen with like Sawyer pun token count, just so we could keep constant track of it and have Patrick in the background to tick it down.
I think we need like a little electric shock thing that we can hit a button and it. Bzz, like,
That's more like it.
That's more like it. All right. Where are we at? We're under 15 minutes, folks. It's coming up on 14 minutes. Tonight's window is actually not actually instantaneous, but it's realistically instantaneous because it's going up to the International Space Station. You don't get to lollygag around for an hour or 2 hours with a really long launch window. We have basically one opportunity. I believe the window's so short this evening that they can go in that window, but the window's only a couple minutes long. So if they have to hold or recycle something, they don't have a lot of time to try and fix whatever the issue is. However, right now, I have not heard of any issues with the rocket. Are we keeping track of that? And have we heard any news on the status? Weather looking green, systems looking green? How are we looking?
I have not been able to listen much to the comms. I'm listening to the live stream here, but as of right now, it seems like we're tracking no issues. Count seems to be proceeding. Again, like you said, we have a 5-minute window. It's not uncommon for them to have to do a minor hold here and there. I remember for NG-19, they actually had to push right to the end of that 5-minute window to do some tech reviews there. So if they have to do a minor hold, they have a little wiggle room, but again, it's just a little wiggle room there. So let's cross our fingers, cross our toes, make sure Antares goes out with a bang. Whoa, not with a bang.
Goes out with a very controlled bang, taking it to a nice orbit insertion up to the International Space Station. How's that?
It's a beautiful rumble.
A beautiful rumble. That's a good way to put it. Thank you, Ian. Check it in with some different views here. We're actually trying something a little different tonight as well. We have a camera that is up the coast a little ways, and we are going to see if we can get some passing shots of the camera. Here we go. Those aren't Cygnus. Those are actually Canadian geese, it looks like. But we do have a camera. There we go, yeah. Up the coast a little ways. Mr. New person that's helping us out here, Lon Sneedman, is out running this camera and sending us a feed, so we'll see if we get a jellyfish effect going up the coast here from this view. Anyways, let's hop back over. Should be approaching 12, just across under 12 minutes.
And at this point, that is when they will start the poll to proceed with the final countdown. So that's about to begin.
All right. We're getting some questions. So let me see if I can grab a couple questions out of chat here. Starting off with this one. Any chance of the jellyfish? It is just a few minutes after sundown, isn't it, over there on the East Coast?
It is indeed. That means that there is a very good chance that the light from the setting sun, as the rocket gets higher into the atmosphere, will, hopefully, cause a jellyfish effect where you see the kind of engine plume remnants, for lack of a better way to put it, spread out so it looks like the top of a jellyfish.
Sawyer, sorry to interrupt. We just got final confirmation go for launch of the SS Laurel Clark.
All right.
Fantastic news. Thank you for interrupting with that.
Yeah, that's the
They
type
had a
of news
very beautiful little speech here about Laurel's history and STS-107. It was very humbling to hear, but T-minus 11 minutes.
All right, T-minus 11 minutes. Like y'all heard, everything is ticking forwards, looking good for the launch of CRS NG-19. Is it CRS-19? NG-19?
It's NG-19.
NG-19, CRS, the 19th, whatever. Anyways, we'll call it.
It's the 19th resupply flight using Cygnus.
Thank you. Let's see here. So remember, if you don't know what the jellyfish effect is, when the sun has just gone down, so it's dark on the ground, right? But the sun is still shining over the curve of the planet and illuminating objects in the sky. You can actually get an effect where the rocket goes from darkness in the shadow of the planet and then breaks into the sunlight all of a sudden. So you have this really good viewing condition down on the ground, not a lot of bright sun bouncing off everything around you, but the rocket and the plume of the rocket are reflecting that direct sun back down to you on the ground, and it gives this really fantastic effect. It only happens when you're just before sunrise or just after sunset. Here this evening, we're just after sunset, and we may get quite the show with Antares, the plume and the rocket itself being illuminated directly by the rays of the sun, causing the jellyfish effect. A great question there, Jason Lee. We talked a little bit about the supplies on the rocket, I believe, right? Typical resupply things where we're talking about, extra food, snacks, science experiments, all those sorts of things that are on the rocket. Sawyer, we briefly named some of those earlier. It's every resupply mission is science experiments, right?
Oh, yeah, it's just different experiments. Again, this one dealing with things that can help with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, studying how fire works in space, and wastewater refinement into drinkable water. We'll
Nice.
word it nicer this time. And
Call you
like
Sawyer
mentioned-
Grills.
And like you mentioned, they have food that goes up, but in addition to the normal, basically MREs that you just add water and eat, there also typically includes something fresh, usually like some fresh fruit, something that they can't get themselves on the ISS, and that would go bad if they left it up there for 3 months.
Somebody at like the Johnson Space Center kitchen that makes the food for the astronauts is like shaking their fist at the screen right now saying, "Did he just call our food MREs?"
It's actually surprisingly delicious, I will say that.
Surprisingly delicious. We also talked a little bit about this, what happens to the spacecraft once it's emptied on the ISS. Cygnus will stay attached to the International Space Station for a while, and then it will eventually deorbit. They put some stuff they don't need anymore, using it like a disposal, right? Some trash things that they don't actually need to recover, and then it will deorbit, burning up in the atmosphere. But on the way, contributing further to the research with the Sapphire series of experiments. So good questions there, y'all. I'm trying to speed run them and get as many as we can because we got 8 minutes here. Go ahead.
Just quickly for reference, it can stay up to 30 days on orbit on its own and 100 days docked to the ISS. Or sorry, berthed to the ISS.
All right. Again, doing a lot of things here, trying to get as many questions as we can in before the launch. 300. Here's one. We talked about, this is the sort of end of the 200 series, but the 300 series should be coming up. Do we have an estimate, Sawyer, of when that 300 series will begin launching?
Ian, do you want to take this one first? If not, I can grab it from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So up until a few days ago, we had the estimate of late 2024 for the Antares 300 series. As of the press conference on Sunday, they announced it got pushed back until no earlier than June of 2025. So right now we're looking at a 2-year downtime on Antares. Again, that's very fluid because they're developing brand new tanks, brand new engines for that vehicle. So that's something we're have to stand by and watch Firefly's development of that. But as of right now, 2 years away from Antares 330 launching.
Good deal. Thank you, y'all. Hey, real quick, you keep seeing the messages pop up in the upper right-hand corner. That's actually coming from our merch store. A great way you can support what we do. We're not going to put it on the stream tonight, like on the screen, because we want to see the rocket. But if you head over to shop.nasaspaceflight.com, there's some clickable links in chat. You can actually give us a little message if you get one of our mugs or t-shirts. We have a ton of Starbase and SpaceX related stuff, right? But if you buy something in the merch store, it'll tell you when you're checking out, we're live now, and you have the option there to put a little message for us. So when you see those things pop up there, it's because folks are supporting us. And if you want to support us, go ahead and visit shop.nasaspaceflight.com. I'm going to say, though, you don't have to. You don't have to join the membership program. You don't have to buy merch. You don't have to send in tips. We love sharing these experiences with everybody. We want everybody to be able to join in. That's why we read some super chat messages. We read some regular questions that come in just by folks tagging us in chat. However, you're a part of our community here. We appreciate you. Yeah, there you go. You're all our rocket friends. I like it. Well said, NASA Spaceflight Actual. You don't have to visit the shop. You don't have to do any of that. Please. Sometimes people apologize and like, oh, I'm so sorry I couldn't do anything. Never feel like you have to apologize. It is fantastic just to be here and watch this launch with y'all. Maybe click a little thumbs up or something like that. Ask us some cool things in chat. Retweet a tweet or something. All the different ways you can be a part of this. We appreciate you every which way. Where are we at? 5 minutes. Did I miss anything important, Sawyer?
The only thing we haven't talked about is the trajectory.
Who can see it?
First off, I should say the Cygnus vehicle is now on launch mode and nominal, so everything is good there. This one is typically along the East Coast. Since it's launching from Virginia, some people to the south will likely be able to see it, down potentially to the Jacksonville area in Florida, and then all of the International Space Station missions go northeast. So you'll have a great view anywhere from Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Maine, all the way up that eastern coast of the United States. You should get a good view. And there's a great outline looking at exactly when, if you're in that colored area, you might be able to see it.
Absolutely. That right there. I think that's also available on Twitter. Wallops does a great job of putting these graphics out. And the different rings are how long after launch you should be able to see it from you. So if you're up in Pennsylvania, you're going up the coast there, you should have an opportunity to see this, not right when it launches, but be out there in Connecticut as well. Hopefully
Yep.
we have a great view from Connecticut as well.
We have official confirmation now that the range is green. That includes weather and wayward planes or boats.
That's good. If you had a bit of a hiccup there, folks, you may have to hit F5 to get back to the full resolution. YouTube being YouTube this evening. Maybe tell each other in chat you might need to refresh the page. Those of you that can hear me. Thanks, YouTube.
Yep, so the latest updates, in case you missed it, is that Cygnus is in launch configuration, the Antares is on internal power, and the range is green.
Outstanding. Coming up on 3 minutes, you see the venting continue. The store messages, people buying Starship merch. We appreciate that. It all supports what we do. Whatever rocket's on the screen, it still supports what we do. But we appreciate y'all. But now under 3 minutes before the launch.
If I could point out two interesting things, especially since we just talked about the trajectory, this is very different from a Falcon 9 or pretty much any other rocket in that there is no solid rocket motors or solid rocket boosters. The first stage is just plain liquid fuel, and then the second stage, once that separates about 3 minutes and 24 seconds into flight, uses a solid rocket motor on the second stage. None of those come back to land. They all get destroyed in the atmosphere prior to the spacecraft, or after the spacecraft reaches orbit.
Gotcha. Good deal. I'm going to do this real quick, y'all, in chat. I am going to put a link over to Twitter right there. That's a tweet with a link to the stream to help more people understand and experience, I guess, what's going on. Click on that tweet real quick. You got 2 minutes. Give us a retweet. See how many people we can get into the stream here before the launch, which has just now ticked L-2 minutes and counting. Outstanding. We are going to see, there's a little bit of smoke from some wildfires out here, which may impact the jellyfish effect. Minute and 45 seconds. One way to find out exactly what this is going to look like is to see the rocket launch and watch what happens. But now, a minute and a half. Go ahead, Sawyer.
The other thing I want to point out is that when the clock hits 0, the rocket will not move, so don't get worried. It takes a little under 4 seconds for the RD-181s to get to full power and then for it to actually lift off.
Yep, and we also are going to have some of the feeds that we get from NASA, but they tend to be not real time. There's a bit of a delay with them. So in the case that you see the rocket do something like launch twice as we change camera angles, we try not to do that, but every now and then with the delay on the NASA feeds, it happens. So you may see some events occur twice just because of the latency between the fields. Fields? Feeds. Videos. Whatever.
Feeds from the field, yeah.
Less than a minute now, y'all. Coming up on 50 seconds.
So far, no issues being reported at this point in the countdown.
All right. Remember, our camera is about 2 miles away from the rocket. That's why the rocket looks so huge on the screen right now. It will take a little bit of time for the sound to get to us. We are not going to mute the rocket so you can't hear it and keep talking. We are going to play the sound to you as soon as it gets to our microphones, but it does take it some number of seconds to travel that 2 miles from the rocket to our camera. So coming up on 20 seconds. Everything looking good.
So far, everything good for mission control.
All right. Let's listen in. 5 seconds now. Be looking for that plume. That's an ignition and liftoff of NG-19 as those sound waves come from the rocket over towards our camera. Look at that.
Beautiful.
Listen for the rumble.
Isn't that beautiful? And that launch sound is always amazing.
All right, pitching downrange, y'all. Been going for about 75 seconds here. You can see that first stage continuing to push Cygnus on its way. Shortly here, we're going to get the booster cut off, and the second stage will continue on. How about that sound, though?
Oh, wow, that was amazing. And just so you're aware for the timing here, main engine cutoff, or MECO, is scheduled for about 3 minutes and 18 seconds into flight. And that is followed about 6 seconds later by the separation of the first stage, and then the ignition of the upper stage is at 4 minutes and 7 seconds.
All right, look at that. As it gets higher in the thinner and thinner atmosphere, you can see that plume start to expand out. There's just less air pressure to push that rocket into the pencil shape. You can literally see the air getting thinner up there. A little bit of haze around it as well. I wonder if that's caused by that wildfire smoke up there, but it should be out of that shortly.
Yes, and normally we call out max Q where the vehicle will throttle down, but this vehicle does not throttle down through max Q, so it's just continuing on its way at full power.
We've swapped back to our camera here. Let's watch for that little point of light to wink out, indicating that the first stage has shut down. Shortly after that, we'll get separation and ignition of the second stage.
We should expect that about 30 seconds from now.
All right.
This is gorgeous. And again, a reminder, this is very unique in that it's almost a whole minute between the first stage separation and stage 2 ignition. First, you'll see the fairing separate. Then you will see the interstage separate, which is right underneath the XL30 caster engine. And then that solid rocket motor will ignite at T plus 4 minutes, 7 seconds.
All right, look at this. Oh, this is the camera up the coast. This is Lon's camera. Look at that.
I love seeing it side on like that. It's always so cool.
Yeah. The trail behind the rocket makes it really easy to sort of see where the rocket is. A little bit of focus hunting there. It's really tough in the evening to get that in focus, but look at that.
At this point, we should be in a short 40-ish second coast phase. As you can see, we've had MECO and first stage separation.
Yep. I was like, wait, what am I seeing all of a sudden? I had to keep my mouth shut so I could figure out what it is. Here
Those
we
little
have
blue lines are maneuvering thrusters that you see firing on the vehicle, by the way.
Yep. Now looking at the animation of it. The thrusters, there's the animated fairing separation. I do hope that's based on real telemetry.
I believe this is all telemetry based.
Yeah.
And there's ignition of the upper stage.
All right, look at this.
And you can see, the upper stage behind it.
Wow.
Fairings.
No kidding. That is the exhaust of the second stage pushing it forward in the fairings. No kidding. We need to send cameras up the coast more often, Sawyer.
You're not kidding. Holy smokes. This is great. And again, it's interesting because this is the solid rocket motor, so it's a little different from those liquid engines. And the view on that, it looks almost like a comet right now. It's amazing.
Yeah, it does look like a comet. And this is the rays of the sun illuminating the side of the solid rocket plume as seen from the coast. If you're up the eastern seaboard right now, make sure you're looking out the window over the ocean and see if you can see this yourself. That is amazing.
Unbelievable. This will continue to burn, by the way, for about another minute, 30 seconds. It's scheduled to burn out at 6 minutes and 49 seconds, and that will also be its orbital insertion, hopefully at an altitude of about 173 kilometers.
I stopped for a second, right? Because we normally don't see that from one of our cameras, and I didn't want to say anything like, is that MECO? Is that stage separate? I didn't want to seem like I didn't know what I was looking at, but we normally don't get to see that from that angle. There's normally not even NASA cameras up from angles like that. It's usually you see them on Twitter afterwards, right? And you're like, oh, aliens invading LA or whatever, right? You see these people that photograph SpaceX launches on Twitter, and that's when you see it. We normally don't get them live, and I was trying to make sure I wasn't going to say something silly. I think that's a pretty strong showing from Lon out there. The first time Lon has sent us a feed and a fantastic view of that second stage going, or the whole rocket. We saw the first stage and the second stage on its way up the coast.
Unbelievable. And I do want to quickly point out right next to the NASA logo, you'll see two numbers, apogee and perigee. The apogee will be the highest point of its orbit, and the perigee would be the lowest. So since it's negative right now, if you were to shut the engines down at this moment, it would crash back to Earth. So we want to see that go positive.
Yep. And also, one of the interesting things here, this second stage is actually a solid second stage. It's not
Exactly.
a liquid second stage like you normally hear on most other rockets. Antares uses a solid rocket second stage, which has all sorts of I guess, special features. Maybe trying to sell it a little bit there. With the solid rocket motor, you're not able to throttle it. You're not able to turn it on and off on the fly, right?
And
So
it just
Cygnus, that did just cut off, and you can actually see on the graph. Is that the acceleration? It is X-body acceleration. Nice. When it cuts off, they actually have to steer it a little bit as it burns through, I guess is the right way to say it. As it burns through the solid rocket, since they can't throttle it down and they can't shut it off before it runs out of fuel, they actually have to steer it a little bit differently, and it can steer a little bit less optimal trajectory to waste a little bit of energy if it's got a really good launch. So it's amazing the control systems that actually handle putting I guess a spacecraft in orbit using a solid rocket motor as the second stage are a little bit more complicated than when you have a liquid motor that you can throttle up and down and all that sort of stuff. So really impressive as...
Yep, and we are now a minute away from payload separation. So that's when Cygnus releases and opens up the two circular solar panels, which if you've played Kerbal, you know what these ultraflex solar arrays look like.
Those are the round ones, right?
Yep, exactly.
That was cool when we got that part in Kerbal because we used to just have the little ones, and I'm like, I can't make a proper Cygnus because I don't have a circular solar array, and then we got them. Thanks, Kerbal team.
Yes, and I should point out, as Ryan mentioned, this is a bit of an inside joke, but also true information. The fuel that's in the solid stage, that second stage, is hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene and aluminum.
You practiced that, didn't you?
Maybe.
Like the mirror and Sawyer practicing saying that word you just said, which I'm not going to attempt to repeat.
Should be coming up on separation momentarily here.
We appreciate you, Sawyer. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. And we do expect to see it here on the illustration. Just standing by. Go ahead.
Based off of real-time data here. So it's okay that it's a few seconds late. Maybe their orbit was slightly different than expected and changes the time of release, which it looks like it's on its way. And based off of the numbers provided to us of the initial orbit, it's pretty darn close. They predicted the initial orbit would be 309 kilometers by 165, and it's 303 by 177, so pretty darn close.
All right, that high perigee there, 177 kilometers in the perigee, putting Cygnus on its way to the International Space Station. Now, Cygnus has some activations to do while the second stage breakdances. They still need to, like Sawyer said, get those solar arrays out, and then Cygnus will, on its own power, I guess under its own power, continue to burn its way to a rendezvous with the International Space Station. A couple of little orbital corrections that it does to make sure that it reaches the right place in space so that the International Space Station technically catches up with it, right? The way they do it.
Exactly.
So, anyways.
Yep.
All right.
So with this one, it takes about 2 days for it to get to the International Space Station. And to expand upon something I said before launch, it will be berthed to the International Space Station, which means someone aboard the ISS will use Canadarm to grab it and then manually dock it basically with the International Space Station, as opposed to Dragon, which does it autonomously without any help of any robot arms.
All right. And here we have the mission control view here. Oh, wow. Suddenly lots of mission controls. Apparently there's the International Space Station Flight Control Room. There's the Wallops Range Control Center and the Northrop Grumman Mission Operations Center. All 3 different locations, 3 different teams of people supporting this. They actually hand it off, don't they? Like-
Yes, they do eventually, and then the control will be jointly shared with the ISS once it enters the keep out zone, basically an imaginary circle around the ISS that anything that goes inside it has to talk to either Houston or Russian Mission Control.
Gotcha. We need a Pat to pack up the camera out there, but we do have my favorite view on launch day. It's the INTB launch pad over there, Pad 0A at the Mars, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport out at Wallops, with no more Antares on it. We'll not be expecting to see an Antares there for a while.
By the way, Ian, if you're still there, I know you and I were together for Falcon 9. How was it for this launch?
It was amazing, Sawyer. I'd say about the same intensity. I mean, even Max was telling me here, it was so incredibly loud. You could hear the engine ignition. Antares is always such a treat to see. It's going to be so sad to not see it for at least 2 more years, but it's so incredibly loud, so incredibly bright. It turned night into day here.
Nice. Did you get some, were you just observing with the Mark 1 eyeballs? Did you get some photos, or how'd you experience it, Ian?
I got some cell phone videos, nothing super remarkable,
Okay.
but our channel members might see some videos coming up later tonight from me. So
Neat.
Ooh.
I saw little sneak peek. Max got some excellent photography. We're heading out to the pad now to go check our remote cameras, or their remote cameras. So yeah, I guess stand by and check over the next few hours.
Wow, they let you
Outstanding.
up quickly after launch.
I know, right? I was thinking that they said like we're going to the pad as soon as we get packed up. So
Hey, ask around real quick, Ian. Has anybody tweeted anything yet? Did Max like tweet a photo or anything like that? I know we had some shots of the setup earlier. What was this one said? The angry tube. But if any of our folks have any tweets out, let us know before we shut down here.
I did a little roll call there. None of us have tweeted anything just yet. So stand by for that.
All right, good deal. Hey, I'm going to say thanks to some folks real quick. Stephen Hill, I didn't want to miss this one. This one came before the launch, but Stephen Hill says, just wanted to let you guys know, I've been here for a few months now, and I haven't missed a single launch. My kids are experiencing these things thanks to y'all. Thank y'all. We love y'all from North Carolina. Stephen Hill, thank you so much for sharing this with your family. It's one of the reasons we do this, just giving folks the opportunity to hang out and experience things, ask questions, see what's going on from us. We're real space nerds too. We're going to talk to you like we're real space nerds. And I hope that we're helping to make it accessible and enjoyable and informative for everybody in your family. So, hey, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, by the way. Also, thank you from North Carolina, but thank you so much for that message. We love seeing things like that, and just the amount of support we get from y'all and the kind words that you share with us. We cannot say thank you enough. Thank you so much. Suddenly, it's the VAB.
Oh,
This
I guess
is
they had to
not
pack
at
up the cameras.
Wallops. This is not at Wallops. I think they are packing up our cameras.
If you look about 800 miles north of that shot, you'll see it.
Oh, this is that was 39A all of a sudden. Like, I guess we have no more camera feeds here to share, but let me say thank you to some more people. There's some more folks in chat over here. Wow. The user who shall not be named gifted a red team membership. But no launches scrubbed tonight, ground umbilical carrier plate. Thank you so much for gifting the one red team membership there. We've got SA did a $10 super chat. I'm speedrunning here. Happy launch day. Did Cygnus have 2 sizes of the cargo modules? Didn't they have like a Cygnus and then a larger Cygnus? They added a ring to a section to or something.
Cygnus XL.
Yeah, Cygnus and Cygnus XL. There you go. So it did have 2 different sizes of Cygnus? Cygni? Plural of Cygnus. How do you conjugate Cygnus?
Cygnuses.
Cygnuses. I don't know. Anyways, they didn't hire me because I'm an English major. So anyways, Hamster Space Nerd 3000 says, love you guys. 1 pun token for Sawyer as well. It's a $5 pun token, so it has to be like a short pun. It can't be too cringy. We'll put that one in the bank.
Yes.
Here we've got Josh Wright, South Central PA on the roof with your binoculars, hoping to catch a glimpse. I love you guys so much. Keep up the good work. That one's from Josh Wright. Josh, I hope you got a view of the rocket there up in South Central PA on the roof. If you did, we'll see if we can see you in chat. But if you have to choose between climbing down from your roof and chatting on YouTube, please focus on climbing down off the roof. NASASpaceflight, not responsible for. Anyways, Beatrice Shanholes, thank you for becoming a Padrat member. I just got 2 more here. I want to get through them all. Ryan Hamstra says, love the shot from up the coast, but I'm still waiting for boat cam. Kayak Jack. Oh, jeez. Kayak Jack. And lastly, here in this queue, we have Peter Thompson. With some Australian dollars, it looks like, says, my contribution to the NASA Activate Windows Fund. I wasn't going to say it. Seriously, though, great launch for Antares and great views from NSF. Peter, thank you so much for the support all the way from the other side of the planet. Another one came in late breaking. Murcon 036, 10 Canadian dollars. Says, thanks for all the space coverage. I wanted to recreate the mission in KSP-1, but I don't know how to dock. Any tips? Now's the part where I have to go scramble to my Twitch channel where I have a tutorial on how to dock in Rendezvous. Hang on, I actually don't know if I can, what's the command? Direct orbital rendezvous. Okay, here, I have it. I'm going to paste it into chat. 7,000 hours in Kerbal Space Program on Twitch will get that for you. But here is a link.
Yeah, I couldn't pick a better person.
To a Twitch channel over there, and you can see how to do a direct orbital rendezvous. And then there's another one for dock. Learn how to rendezvous and dock in 30 minutes or less. Also on Twitch, by the way, because I have played a lot of Kerbal Space Program on Twitch. But there's your 2 links to help you out, Murcon036. If you still need some help, look for my buddy EJSA, EJ_SA over there on Twitch. He still has time to play Kerbal on occasion and does live Q&A and helps people out and stuff like that on his Twitch channel. So anyways, hopefully that helps you out.
Also calling out Alex and Ryan here talking about either using MechJeb or the cheat menu. Don't do it.
Don't do it. You'll never learn how to do it if you do MechJeb. Good grief. Mark 1, learn your own skills and how it works. Hey, can we show the tweet? I know I'm asking for a lot here. Producer Patrick, can I please ask for a tweet from Max Evans as I talk to buy time for the producer to show it? There it is. All right, cool. So this is a shot that Max got from the press site over there. That's how we got it so quickly. Water tower on the right-hand side, you can see. But a shot over there on Twitter. We'll get that link into chat as well. Make sure you toss a follow to Mr. Max all the way up from the Cape to view this launch over at Antares. It looks like they got a cool launch tonight. How am I doing, Sawyer? Are we coming up on the end of this here?
Yeah, I don't believe there's anything else now until the birthing 2 days from now.
All right. Well, let's go around and say thanks to some folks real quick. I know most of the folks had to get off comms because they have to pack up the cameras and stuff like that. But massive thanks to Pat O'Loughlin, Mr. Space Pat, over there rolling out, operating the camera this evening for us. Also in the field, we had Ian Atkinson out there. We heard Ian on comms a couple times, and we also heard from Max Evans. That was our folks out in the field this evening. Back in the studio, Sawyer, thank you so much for the help.
Absolutely. It's always my pleasure. A quick shout out, by the way. I've been informed that we have some people from Northrop who watch the stream, so hopefully we did you guys proud, and keep an eye out for Woody Hoberg and Frank Rubio capturing Northrop Grumman's Cygnus very soon, and for the Antares 300, hopefully in 2025.
All right. Hey, also thanks to Patrick Calhoun, who was operating things in the studio for us this evening. Alex was hanging out here as well. Y'all know Alex. Alex is always in the background giving us information, even if you don't hear him on the screen. And last but not least, a massive thanks to Mr. Lon Seidman, who rolled out that side view camera for us. The first time we had seen something like that live on one of our streams. Massive thanks for providing that feed for us, so we got that side-on view of the rocket going up the coast this evening. But I do believe that brings us to the end of our live coverage and commentary for NG-19 here this evening. My name is John Galloway for NSF. However you appreciate this, however you experience this, however you share it with the folks around you, we appreciate y'all being here this evening. Thank you so much for making it so that we can keep bringing you this sort of coverage. And for now, we will see you nerds later.
And here we go.
Chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Payload down to nominal.
Flight downside SPD off. Say again, SPD off. It's orange! Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.